Can see my screen. So I would like to thank everyone for coming today and to participate in this workshop with us. We are very interested in your views. I'm going to start this just giving you an overview of why NRC cares at all and what it is we're trying to do and how we're positioning the NRC in this. And then after that, I'm going to pass the floor to Dr. Lee, who is going to give us an overview of where he believes we can really be in if we work together in the next 10 years to do something about this thing called pollution remediation. So just give you a little overview of the NRC. Most of you know who we are, and some of you work for us, but the idea here is just really, I find that very few people seem to really understand what the NRC's value proposition is. So, and where we play in the federal family. I'm going to explain the ocean program that I'm responsible for and why we care about pollution remediation falls squarely in there. And then we'll talk a little bit, one slide on what I'm hoping to get for today. So who we are, I like to start with this slide because it really tells you the value. So first of all, we are the federal government's national research and technology organization. So we're kind of like the national lab of the Canadian people. So in that we do applied and natural sciences. We are not a social sciences group. Really, it is research and technology. You can see our vision and our mission here, but really I'd like to highlight our values. We are very interested in research excellence, but we want to do that through respect, integrity, collaboration, impact, and creativity. Like, you can't really be excellent without being creative, so they're probably one and the same. But anyway, the point is when you're dealing with us, you're not dealing, you know exactly what you're dealing with. We are all about making sure we get somewhere together collaboratively to make the world a better place. Such a glib statement, but anyway. NRC has about 4,000 scientists, engineers, and technicians that are working together. If you look at the top right-hand corner, you'll see the map. So essentially those little yellow dots are where IRAP is, and I think most of you know who IRAP is. It is an almost 70-year program that has helped industry, small and medium-sized enterprises, to become more innovative across all technological suites. And then we have our facilities that are in the little red boxes. So when you come into the NRC, you have access to all of our facilities. We have about a $1.1 billion annual budget. This is really, this goes mostly to our facilities and also for support for SMEs. We do work on a cost recoverable basis, and we do that to stay relevant. So our three key roles, as you can see, are business innovation, federal policy mandates, and advancing knowledge. What we've noticed is that if we don't charge for our services, we are not relevant to these three players. So really, we charge for relevance. It's cost recovery. We're not a for-profit organization whatsoever. So business innovation is IRAP and ourselves through this program I'm about to talk about. Federal policy mandates. This scan today, this thing that we're doing together today, is actually feeding into other federal mandates as well. We are aligned totally with the other federal ocean-related government departments. So the Blue Economy Strategy, we sit on the the steering committee of the workshops that we're doing here. And we're also feeding into Transport Canada and to Natural Resources Canada and Coast Guard, etc. We're working together to make sure that we're all hearing the same thing. And then finally, we advance knowledge, and that's important in the ocean space, big time. We have different services that we offer. That basically IRAP, we all know what IRAP does. Wonderful, wonderful program there. But we also have the infrastructure, like I said, that's paid for through that budget. And we have technical services, which is really if you want us to do R&D for you. So like we have this wonderful coastal basin. And if you're doing coastal resilience research, you probably are not going to go create your own coastal basin. So you can come and use ours. And again, cost recovery on that. And then you get to use our services and you don't have to actually create your own lab. So that's what that's about. And what really I'm interested in today is this first pillar here, strategic research and development. So we have our own research agenda that is aligned with federal mandates. So if it's a government priority, it is an NRC priority. And the ocean blue economy is a strategic objective. So the NRC has quite a bit of internal research that we do. And what we're looking for is how do we work together to either do research for you or to do research more aptly together for a maximum benefit to Canada. We have 14 areas. The ones in green are the ones that I think are applicable to just about anything ocean-wise. Though I say automotive and surface transportation should also be there, since things like ports and port effluents and the like are also part of that surface transportation group. So NRC and the blue economy. As we all know, the federal government has made a commitment to the ocean through the blue economy strategy, through helping create opportunities for fishers and coastal communities, as you see here, and protecting a quarter of our oceans in 5 years. So those are things that the federal government has also said. They've also invested in the supercluster. So that is, even though the NRC is looking at TRL levels like 3 to 9 or to 8, the supercluster really is looking at 7 and 8 TRL levels. So we're talking about the end game. So as we develop these technologies and innovations, it goes into the supercluster, and we want these things to get taken up in private sector. There is no technology that is useful if the idea sits on a shelf and private sector doesn't take it up. So having that private sector influence is very important for us. We are very interested in sustainable everything. As we all know, the ocean, and most of us here are probably more aware of that than many, is that the ocean is not in a sustainable state. And if we are going to really focus on the blue economy, then we have to focus on sustainability. We have to put the ocean first, the health. So for us, it's all about ocean health, ocean wealth, and that is where this program comes in. We're responding to the blue economy strategy, not by just getting more business in the oceans, but really by saying we need to fix our issues with the ocean before that ocean can have the sustainability level it requires to provide us with things like food and oxygen and the rest, and a stable climate. So after COVID, I'm told all indications are about climate change, and the ocean is the climate regulator. So if we don't have a healthy ocean, we don't have a healthy climate, and it just ends there. So really it's about focusing on ocean health, and then from that we can get financial contributions to our economy. So ocean health, ocean wealth, they are tied. You can't have one without the other, and you don't want one without the other. This program is a 7-year duration. So it's a $50 million or just over $50 million investment. Again, part of that is cost recovery, absolutely. And what that means from an NRC perspective is that we have taken those little red dots that you saw on the screen, and we've prioritized all of the relevant researchers and facilities to be ready to address issues in the ocean space, so blue economy space. We also have around $10 million of that 50 that we can give in grants and contributions to supplement the research that we're doing. Again, back to that aligned with the government. So here today, we are actually looking at picking winners, which is something you don't hear from the government very often. But in our case, what we're saying is, you know what, the Canadian landscape is almost all SMEs. Those are like, and I say this all the time, but those are like particles in the duality of the particle wave, right? So we have basically a bunch of SMEs that are particles, and if we make those particles work or help those particles work together collaboratively, we become a wave, and we can wash over Canada and the world with solutions that will clean our ocean and help us make money while we're doing it. And so we want to do that with as many collaborations as possible. So some of the funds that we're going to have is going to go to open calls. Some of it is going to be directed, but really what we're trying to do is work with industry, academia, and other government departments to find winners for where we're going. And that is where Dr. Lee is going to provide us with some value. The program itself has 4 areas. You can see squarely that pollution remediation is one of our key focus areas. And so the others, yes, we're also focusing on that, but today we really want to talk about pollution remediation, which is the work that we're doing is all about impact and detection of pollutants, transport and fate of pollutants, and then the extraction of those pollutants for use in the circular economy. And that is a very important thing that I think we all need to be thinking about, is like, we hear often about how we have to clean up the environment, but we got to stop looking at it as a cleanup cost and looking at it as an asset. And that includes our pollutants. We can take those out, use them as an industrial feedstock to another process. And again, that is how we're going to make money and have a sustainable solution. We are just focused on 4 pollutants at this time, but that does not mean that we're not going to be looking at more as the time goes on. So we are looking at microplastics, well, plastics in general, but microplastics is the harder problem. We're looking at oil, how do we get the oil out that's in there? And when it spills, how do we get it out faster? And we're also looking at noise, which is weird to say that it's part of the circular economy, but it is wasted energy. So if you can take that noise and use it for propulsion, you've used it that way. And then also biofouling. So those are the 4 areas that we're looking at. However, things like nutrient leaching from agricultural processes on land is something that we also know is an issue, and acidification is another area that we are also aware of. We just have not done any of the work for that yet, and it's not in our list yet. So this is just to show you that each one of our themes looks totally at how the 2 work together. We will not take on a project if it doesn't have an ocean health component. And then finally, we are also obviously looking for, well, not maybe obviously, to me it's obvious, maybe not to you, but we want diversity and inclusion. It is built into this. So for us, the entire program sits in what we call an ethical space. We got that from an Indigenous or First Nations report and some consultations with First Nation societies. And we were like, yes, this is what we want, an ethical space for research. So this was developed as a concept for reconciling nations, but when it comes to science, we really have some learning to do. Also, we are going to look at every project we do through a GBA plus lens. So maybe we're not going to be able to do anything with the fact that STEM is still less women than men, but at least we're going to consider that when we go forward with the project. And finally, why are we here? Today, we are here so we can accomplish something together. And really, this program is a 7-year program. Obviously, the ocean is not going to disappear in 7 years, but we would like to accomplish something that we could do together where we could say in 7 years, we will have done this, and in 10 years, this will be the impact. So we're putting this on a 10-year frame for this workshop. And what we're doing for that is this is part of a larger scan so that we make sure that we're actually as effective and efficient as possible, and particularly using and maximizing the use of federal funding for the benefit of Canadians and particularly our industries. So we're doing 3 things, and we're doing it for all the sectors for 6 sectors in the ocean. Today it's pollution remediation. But what we're doing is these workshops to hear from you, to figure out what it is that we need to be doing together, what is holding us back, and how can we overcome those challenges together. We're doing a publications and affiliation scan that we're going to share broadly with everyone, which is really who in Canada is publishing what with respect to pollution remediation, and then what affiliations do those have. So those will be Canadian and international, and that will give us that landscape. We're also looking at what businesses are operating in what areas when it comes to pollution remediation, both SMEs and MNEs. So essentially, what is the landscape and how much investment is currently being done and who are those players? So all of these 3 functions together, we're hoping is going to be able to give us something like this potential objective that you see below. And it really is, Canada has developed something that I put macro and microplastics in there simply because, I care about getting plastics out. We have a lot of work on that. So I put that in, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the objective. But it would be nice if we all stood up together and said, in 10 years, we can do X. And with that, I'm going to close. If you have any questions, let me know. Here is my contact information. I want to hear from you individually as well as this group. So if you have anything that you would like to share or any questions that you have for me going forward, please reach out and I will do my best to answer. And with that, I will pass the floor unless there's questions. I don't know if there's questions. I can't tell if there's questions either. So
I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay, and so please use the chat if that's a better way to do it. I'm going to stop my sharing now, and I am going to very happily pass the floor to Dr. Lee, who is going to introduce us to how we can remove pollutants from the ocean in the next 10 years.